yeah, today you guys are going to answer, not your own because it's harder, but answer why did, a few samples here, why did these people get MS? Okay. A few hints just so that we kind of know what we're looking at. I read this quote before, I'm just going to read it again. This is Gabor Mate, he's a doctor in Canada. He wrote a book called When the Body Says No. And what he said was cancer, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and other conditions we examined are not abrupt new developments in adult life, but culmination of lifelong processes. Okay? When you get it is not, oh, that's what, you know, it was those last 6 months. Those last 6 months of stress is the culprit. It's the culmination. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. So what we're going to look today is what's the camel. Okay? So just have a mentality, kind of as you're looking at this is lifelong. These are some lifelong patterns. So what I actually brought today was one of the sessions I do with hypnosis is, hypnosis is used for sometimes to convince the subconscious of stuff, right? You know, you have so much more self-confidence now, you know you can. But hypnosis can also be used not just to put information in the subconscious. So if you think of the mind, I always think of the mind like an iceberg, okay? This is the part that we're all talking to each other. It's called the conscious mind. It's focused on 5 to 7 bits of information. But at the same time, while we're talking, you have what's called the subconscious mind that's focused on what's the temperature in this room, so I know I have to raise or lower the temperature of the body. What is he doing? So I have to know if the heart rate is at a good heart rate for this, right? Is this a moment to digest? Is this not a moment to digest? How to move my hand? Well, this person's been moving it since the age of about 3 months, so how do we do that? We send these pulses, et cetera, et cetera. So this guy, the subconscious mind, is in charge of the body, in charge of all your memories, because it needs to know, well, how should she respond to that? Well, last time, and the time before, she did it this way. Oh, okay, so that should be my automatic response, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes you're like, why do I keep doing that? Because the subconscious has, you know, memories of how you always do something a certain way. So all your body functions, all your memories, right? It's regulating stuff. But another great thing is with hypnosis is not only can we put information in, we can pull information out. And so one of the sessions I do is in hypnosis, hypnotherapy, we go in to speak to MS. So we pull information out of the subconscious. What is the purpose of MS? So I'm going to read to you guys several, and we're going to make a little list of some of the patterns that are coming out. What is the purpose for these people? And you'll see that there's some common traits, right? All right, so the first person, when we went to speak to MS, it says, it always comes out as something. Sometimes it comes out as a white box, an amiibo, a wolf, an old lady who's very like this. Sometimes as a man in a black cape that's super scary, but then later on you realize, no, it's like, you know, musketeer. It's here to help you out. So then we have a conversation in hypnosis. It's kind of like a waking dream to talk to it. And so with this first one, I said, how do you surf? And the MS says, it's representing everything that is you. What you know and don't know about yourself. The pretty and the not so pretty. It says it wants you to know that it is all you. You are wanting to get rid of the ugly. You fight to ignore it, but it's needed. Something to compare the pretty to. It helps you see yourself and accept everything. When you do that, then there will be peace. So what do you think this first piece, what is it talking about?
There's self-critical aspects?
There's a self-critical, so there's things about us that we accept and the society accepts, and things about us that we don't, right? It says you don't want to think about the ugly. You overemphasize your expectations so that everything looks good. And I'm just reading different little pieces of it. But we need it all because it makes you whole. The ugly and the not so ugly. Negatives are actually positive. So there's one clear message here. There's two clear messages for this person.
They keep up a facade.
There's a facade that says, I'm only going to show what's pretty, right? What's pretty, what's acceptable. Huh? Is it pretty with two T's?
Two T's, yeah.
Yeah. That looks right. So
What's not acceptable about me is I have terrible spelling.
me too, but I have read that does not mean you are not as smart as
I know, it's what my sister says. She goes, it is incredible how far you have gone without any spelling skills. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a facade about it. I'm just going to show what's pretty. It says here, don't overemphasize your expectations so that everything looks good, right? There's like, oh, it's got to look good.
Martha Stewart external.
The Martha Stewart, I had one client that was like, yeah, when I was little, I was dreaming, I would be Sunday mornings with my pearl necklace and making breakfast for my kids. Right? There's this really high expectations. It's got to look good, right? My marriage has got to be successful. No one can know that it's crappy that I married the wrong person. My job has to look successful. So there's all these things about high expectations and look successful. And what is it saying? What is it inviting the person to do?
Lie to themselves.
To lie or to not lie? The MS is inviting them to do what?
Accept.
Yep. Include, accept, all of it. All parts of you.
I remember in graduate school, the cohort of us got to the place towards the end where like mediocre has got to be exactly what we're aiming for. We don't have to aim this up here anymore. We actually should be aiming more for mediocre. Fine.
Yeah.
Therapist always says A's, B's and C's get degrees.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be in the middle.
Actually, when I went to my 20-year, high school reunion thing, I was the B. And like the A students, they were stuck. They were like, like in cubicles and still holding on to their cum laude, whatever, and all us B students were like, oh man, I had so much fun. I tried this job. Oh, that sucks. So I just quit, and now I raise horses. Oh, you raise horses? It was like there wasn't this expectation or this need to succeed or this holding on to the A pluses. We'd already given up. We're like, we're mediocre. I'm not going to get very far. And what's interesting, it says the negative is actually positive. The ugly, the raw, the mistakes, these are actually positive. And you're going to read another one which might give you some clues. Why the hell would that be positive?
Yeah, I try and actually encourage that I had a conversation with my 7-year-old about how, trying to get her with math to not try to be willing to see the mistakes as a useful part of the process of learning. Now, she's kind of macabre sometimes, so she took it all the way. She's like, yeah, but if somebody kills someone accidentally, that's a bad mistake. And I'm like, yes, that would be a bad mistake. And
it would have been amazing learning. That would be lifetimes of learning right there. Okay, so this is a one piece, and we're going to find some other ones that are similar. The second part of the message for this person. MS is there to make you understand that you are not all powerful. that you need more than just yourself, and that is okay. It slows you down. You are not to be it all. What's the message there?
Acceptance.
There's
As
an
far as
acceptance.
accepting the MS as what it is.
This is about self, though.
Uh,
Makes you understand you are not all powerful. And right now, you'll notice when it's said in different ways through different people's subconscious, there's actually some patterns here. But it's saying something about you are not powerful, and that's okay.
Well, I think MS teaches you that,
Yeah, but usually people are like,
you know.
I hate asking for help. I'm just da 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 because I used to. I didn't need anyone, ever.
Yeah.
There's a learning here.
I think you were in my room this week.
Uh-huh.
That's what I was yelling.
Yeah, so there's something, and you'll notice it in the other ones. We'll probably give you a little bit more like, what are you talking about? I'm not supposed to be the successful A-type personality, total, powerful, independent, but that's what we're taught to do. And one more piece. You need to accept yourself, treat yourself better, take care of yourself. Don't make yourself the last thing to do. Actually put yourself on the list of things to do. Right, so this would be the typical word self-care, but it's very different, right? Self-care equals I am on my list. Not the last thing. So this is one person. This is what this person's MS said. Let's see if we can find some commonalities. Okay. Sometimes when I speak to the MS at the very beginning of the session, the MS begins showing the problem. Okay, the patterns, and this is a couple of them, the patterns that are getting the real problems. And then as I start asking more questions, it switches over to what are the solutions, okay? So in this one, the MS at first was something that was moving around and alert and just trying to see everything that was happening. And it said, oh no, I have to be alert, I have to be real, I have to be watchful. Because if not, to make sure I'm safe. And it said this started in childhood. There was a strategy. The person has a strategy. I need to be watchful. I need to be always on, okay? Because then I'll be safe. And the purpose of MS in this case was you give 150% of your time all the time. 150% of yourself all the time. If MS is the body, right? It's not anything, it is the body expressing to you. And so the body is saying, if I didn't come in, if we didn't do this for you, you would never have stopped. It keeps you from running. There was something else about that, huh? You had a pattern. The other one too. Run. Stop running. What?
I just said, damn it.
Yes. Okay, it says it keeps you from running. It says you give everything all the time. So I asked, so what do you want them to do less of? Let's try to please everything and everyone. You are okay the way you are. Be all of yourself. Be all of yourself. There are so many sides of you. Not just the kind, the intelligent, the friendly, but the sad, the weak, and the dark sides too. Now it's interesting, and I said, why? Because I know one of the other ones said this is the positive the negative is a positive. And I said, why? And it said, because they are creative, they are calming, and they are balancing. This balances.
Yeah, except, let's say if you're in a relationship, you don't want to necessarily show the ugly and the raw, because let's face it, who wants to be around that?
Right.
So you kind of like have then your facade and make everything look pretty and whatnot.
Does your relationship want you to be Ken the Barbie, always looking good, or does your relationship want you to have, and this is the hard part, this is a learning, right? Want you to sometimes have like a really raw day. And that gives them permission to go, oh my God, he's human, right? He has a day, you know, I come home sometimes and I'm like, I'll have one of these just total collapse, like I don't know what I'm doing in my life, I made a humongous mistake, I'm just having, you know, and I get to be there for 2 days. And the other person gets to be, you know, the cheerleader, and I get to be like, you know, get to be like, I'm not having that today. I'm having my crisis. Because what happens a few days later is these ugly raws, the MS says they are creative, they are calming, they are even part of what makes music and art. They are beautiful and melancholic. They are playful. They give you inspiration, deepness, and calm. And so here the MS said, and they weren't welcome. Know that it's totally okay because this balances. MS is balance, right? Right side totally, left side totally. Again, that's why, what are the patterns here? What is it saying, right? It's giving you just to start going, do I see myself here? Do I want to look at this, right? These are not short processes. Once I have one of these sessions, we could be working on this for months to start incorporating. What is that? What do you mean the ugly? I don't want to show the ugly. I don't want to show that I married someone who's an alcoholic. I don't want to show that, you know, I married someone who's socially totally shut down and I can never talk to him about blah, 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 blah. Or I don't want to show that I have, you know, bad moments or I'm not always confident or, and yet somebody's saying, no, be all of it.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Be all of it. Be yourself. And another one, very similar. This is the second person we're talking to. You don't have to be strong and tough all the time. It's safe enough to just be a little girl sometimes. So the strong and powerful, yeah, these are great traits. We all have them. You don't have to be them all the time.
I think to get to your point, I think it does definitely depend on how the relationship is. Like obviously if it's a new relationship, then you probably aren't.
You don't want to scare them.
Throwing everything on them at the same time, you know, but hopefully over time it can grow so that everyone can share all aspects of themselves.
Yeah.
And if it can't, then maybe it's not the right relationship.
It just seems like it's just too easy. It's like all wrapped up in a nice little bow saying, just accept all.
Oh, these aren't easy.
Yeah.
Where this is saying accept your shadows, right? I mean, there are therapies that are just focused on that. There are therapists that just work on shadow because it's really saying accept all of it. And it's not just now. So that's why the first thing I did was read Gabor Mate. These are lifelong processes. MS is talking about lifelong processes. This is high school. This is in your 20s. This is in your 30s. You know, right now you're using, you know, it's the same strategies. Well, now I have this. How am I going to expose this, right? But it's talking about things that were happening years and years and years and years. When I go back to when did the MS start, these are 7-year-olds, 11-year-olds, fetus. These are patterns that we pick up like, oh, I'm not allowed to show all parts of myself, or my dad was an alcoholic, I don't, our family doesn't show that out there. And I learned that, these are social strategies, I learned that and I never show. People don't know that my house is screwed up because we look really successful, right? And so this is coming in, because think of it, your immune system is protecting you from what is not you. And you're telling your immune system, this part of me is okay, this part of me I hate. I beat myself up for wallowing one day or for da-da-da. And so your immune system is like, oh, let's beat ourselves up. Right? There's conflict within the personality, there's conflict within the immune system. I know a lot, this is gonna kind of like, how can this?
That was huge to hear. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, the battles that we fight in our head, you know, is 1,000 times worse than real life.
And
I mean,
it gets reflected in the body.
Absolutely.
That it's like, you know, when you're that depressed or you're that in your head about this stuff, it's not my body that's not working, it's my mind. I physically can't make myself do something if I'm that low.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily.
And read
my
those
body.
words. I can't make myself do something. What happened before? There was enough energy that you can actually make yourself do things that you don't really feel like doing.
Yeah.
But with the MS, you're not allowed to make yourself do anything that you don't want to do, because you don't have the energy. It's like, now you have to be, you have to decide what is worth it.
Yeah.
And your MS is actually saying, do things that are worth it, not expectations of others, expectations of graduate school, expectations. Do things that are worth it, that have value to you.
Yeah, but I find all of that understandable if, let's say, you suddenly have an onset of MS, and so you have a certain number of symptoms. And you may have exacerbations, but it's always the same symptoms. And the development of that disease arrests itself right there. Then you can go back and deal with everything else that happened before and work on it so that maybe you can somehow accept.
Or you can reduce the inflammation of the body
Okay.
and the reaction and the activity of the body. And in a lot of these presentations, I always say MS is a verb, it's not a noun. You don't have MS, you're MSing, which is why, after a while, you will have some lesions that stay longer, but there are days that you feel more, that you are able to do more and able to do less, and it will depend on how active your immune system is at that moment.
Yeah, but it seems like every time you get more symptoms, then you have to almost start from scratch again, because now you're more freaked out, now you're more depressed, now you're more of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time there's an advancement, now
There's
it's
an
getting
urgency.
worse and worse and worse, exactly.
Yeah, there's an urgency, like, I have to figure this out, I have to, I'll have a client come in and they're like, let's do 3 sessions in a row because I want this to, it's going too fast. And I'm like, hey, guess what? It actually took about 15 years to get here. So let's take our time. But it might get worse, and that's okay, because you might actually get better at the end. I'll have a client, my oldest client was 84 years old. And her leg was so stiff, she needed 2 physical therapists to help do any kind of physical therapy on her leg. After working on the stuff and the critical factors and the I can't ask for help and, accepting other parts of myself, etc., her physical therapist said, whatever you're doing, keep doing, because we now only need 1 physical therapist to move that leg. It has become softer. And she had it for 45 years. So it was turning around as she was softening and having less internal struggles, having less pushing, less running, more self-care, not needing to be strong every day, and saying, wow, I'm going to have one of those days that I'm just going to I'm just gonna read and just forget about life. I need a day off. And she'd never given herself permission for that. It's like, that's lazy. You're not allowed to be lazy. And now she's like, I had a lazy day. It was amazing. I didn't call, no one knew where I was today.
Cell phone off.
I was like, oh, I'll get back to you, I'm really busy right now. As I went back to reading my book in the sun. I think in hers, I think the MS was it was like a cat laying in the sun or something. Or so it was something about a chair in the sun was her MS.
Giving yourself permission feels so different than the depression making, the depression making that judgment call. Like laying in bed by choice versus like, I can't get out of bed because I can't get out of bed.
The thing is, most of the time, we won't stop. We won't put ourselves on our to-do list. We won't, I think in this one, we asked about the sensation, some of the symptoms, and it said numbing. What does numbing mean? And it said, numbing means you're ignoring the body. It's exhausted and you're being deaf. And it said, don't ignore sensations. Do something about them. The body's not comfortable, take action. Is there a right action? Take action. Take a shower. Take a nap. Have a tea. The body is uncomfortable. It doesn't want to be ignored.
It doesn't have to be a big action.
No, that's why. A shower. Tea.
Breathing.
Breathing.
Answers under your nose.
Stopping for 15 minutes. Yeah. And then it said, this one too, is you don't always have, it says protect yourself from expectations. You don't always have to meet expectations. And the question was, is it really your own? Is it others or is it really your own? Again, it was kind of talking about that. Because, but we have to. Are you sure they're expecting you to be that way? They're expecting you to show up. I have to show up. I organized it. Yeah, but look, this isn't happy with it. You can't delegate it to someone who really likes doing that stuff. Counting. Someone loves counting. You don't have to be the one doing it, right? They expect me to do it. Okay, so this one's one more. Just to, hopefully this is not too much, but hopefully this will give you some. So another person, when we went to speak to the MS, and it started again as the problem. Sometimes in the session it begins as a problem, and then as I ask questions, it gives the solution. So the MS at first was trying to control everything. It says, I'm always with you all the time. I'm monitoring. And I said, what are you monitoring? Failure. Fear of failure. I need to stay on track so I can succeed. Because then I'll be safe. Then I'll be at peace. So I need to run. I need to control. I need to stay on track. I need to manage my time, because then maybe I'll have peace and I'll have calm. There was actually a great quote about time, because I was like, but I don't have time. I don't have time to just lay in bed. Are you talking? I can't just waste a whole day. And it says, stop putting so much on time and deadlines. Time keeps going. You have it. It keeps coming.
I mean, I have to have projects in my time, and I gotta say at the end of the day, okay, I did this, I accomplished this, and that's a good thing for me, I think.
Yeah.
It keeps me going. I've got
My list.
projects.
Yeah.
And
So
if I can get
add
one
yourself
done,
on that project.
I'm good.
Yeah.
The
Putting
project
yourself on the
today
list.
was pampering. Was pampering myself. Did I do it? Make sure that's in there too.
I do that too.
Okay.
Yeah, you almost have to. I mean, I get so tired, I gotta relax.
You almost have to. MS is actually saying, forcing you to do
It's time.
something
It's
You're already
time.
almost-
that when you're
you
20,
have to do it.
you would just,
Yeah.
exactly, you have to, or you'd be at 150%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop running control, and there's one more piece that comes out a lot. What do you need to let go of? Fear of failure and what others think. What's more important than that, I said, and it said love and happiness. So there's a lot about perfection and fear of failure, right? And this is actually aligned with that. It needs to look successful, I can't fail. It needs to be perfect, because then I'll be okay.
That takes me mentally back to college days. You need to
Yeah.
pass the class. You need to pass the test to go on.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of my younger years.
Yep. I think in one of my sessions, MS was a report card. It was a problem. It showed itself first as a problem. And it said, think about it, right? We treat life as a report card. We gotta get it right. There's only one answer. Really? Right? It's gotta be perfect. What's perfect? If I'm a tree, am I perfect if I'm a madrone? Or am I perfect on my cypress, right? Or am I perfect if I'm a bush? A bush is more perfect than a cypress. What is it? Right? What is, I need to get it right. It's a report card.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, forgive yourself and be nice to yourself. Right? Self-care, but also nice. So what are some of the common traits? What are you taking away? Other than that.
Be good to yourself.
I like the idea of putting yourself on the list.
Yeah, make sure that on those projects, you got yourself in there.
Mani-pedi day.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Not just thinking it, actually doing
Putting it on the list.
I like the quote of being selfish is okay, in terms of self-care. I mean, obviously, you can be selfish, just screw people over, but being selfish, thinking about yourself first. The airplane one of always, mask them
Oh,
down,
yeah.
put yours on first, because you can't help other people, you can't move.
Yeah.
You can't,
Number one's important.
you can't build a house on a broken foundation.
Mm-hmm. And houses have toilets, right? They got attics, they got, some ugly bits too, but you kind of need those.
You, on the relationship note, when you said that the ugly and the raw, the first fight I had with my new, not fight, I guess, my new boyfriend, he was just learning about the MS stuff, and I make jokes about how much medication I take, because you have to make jokes when you open your purse and you're like a 1950s housewife, like just so many pills up in there. And he was like, what, are you proud of how much medicine you take? And I just was like, I'm like, what? No, you misunderstood. But I didn't get a chance to talk because I just started crying, but like I didn't feel comfortable being all that in front of him. So I was like, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. And I just like completely melted down in the bathroom. And then when I came back out, he was like, you do know that I know when you go to the bathroom like you're crying. And he was mad at me. He was really, really mad at me. And I didn't understand. And I called my girlfriend who just finished her, she's gonna be a therapist. And so I was like, quick, get some hours. And I called her and I told her. And she's like, well, maybe he wanted to be there for you. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, try that. And so I went and talked to him the next day, and he's like, why would you run away? Like, why wouldn't you let me console you? Like, that's not cool. Like, you wouldn't let me get away if I was upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh shit. Because I'm a runner. I don't, like, I'm like, oh, this is getting really personal. That's weird, I have to go.
Yeah, running.
Yeah.
It stops you from running. It stops you from being powerful and actually lets you show more sides of yourself.
I never expected that a man would want me to be that kind of squish in front of him, and that not allowing him the chance to support me when I was upset would make him angry. And that was new. It was all really well.
But does that make life easier?
everything that I can do, you know, to make myself better, I will. And that self-care is a huge one. And I mean, just everything, you know, like you said, the balance, you know, not just diet and exercise, but another good one that took me a while is, you know, in the healing process of mental and physical, but like communal healing too, you know, and to be able to come here. I don't know, everybody obviously kind of has the same deal going on, so it's nice to see that.
And I don't know if you guys noticed when, you know, right when we just started this presentation, I couldn't remember this. You know how many, I heard like, ah, she can't spell. There was actually relief. I think there, you know, it's like, oh, she's human too. Oh, I know that one. I know that one. That's like me. You're, you know, there's almost a camaraderie with the you know, these parts. Oh, my sister, just like you. Oh, my sister says you can't believe how far I've gotten because of my spelling. Oh, I have to say, this makes us, you know, it's the part that people get intrigued and hooked into and love and think it's adorable. And, you know, poetry's written.
Let music and art and creativity come out of all that.
Yeah, this is a, yeah. Nowadays, and you know, first world countries with the, you know, and being so successful, and how do you make poetry out of there? You know?
Thank you very much. That was, gave us a lot to think about, but it made sense. It made sense.
And as I said at the very beginning, this is the camel. Then many, yeah, you know, I get clients that don't have MS and have some of these elements, and yeah, I know it's like, yeah, it's all good until, you know, life just gives you way too many elements, and it's too hard to hold this strategy, and the body says, no, no more, not doing this anymore. MS is a first world country issue. It's not personal. It's like most of these things are, you know, we get educated to, oh, don't be so sad. Come on, cheer up. People are very uncomfortable with it, right? Or, you know, being independent is so well viewed, or being powerful. Now, women, we're supposed to be powerful and everything else and have, you know, hormones every month. I'm not powerful then, let me tell you. I am a sad rod. And I write a lot during that time. Yeah, and it's always like, you know, I always joke, I love doing this to people when people are like, so, what are you doing for the weekend? I'm like, absolutely nothing. This week has been so fun. I'm not going to do nothing. I think I'm going to like imitate the cat and see if I can stay in the sun as long as the cat.
I like
That's
that
my
one.
plan. And people get really uncomfortable because we're supposed to be running, we're supposed to have all this to-do list, and we're supposed to have, and I'm like, no, this week was way too much. I'm just gonna like stay in the pajamas for the whole weekend.
It's just like
Are you sick? No, I'm this is health. This is health. You know, pajamas, pancakes, back in bed to watch a second movie. That's health. That's Sunday. Because my mom would never let me stay in bed once I was sick, and the minute I had my own apartment, I went back to bed after breakfast on Sunday. Yeah. So this is one of the, I'll try to bring some books, but this, one of the things to work with, this section, great title, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. What do you think that means? The dark side of the light chasers.
The dark side of happy people.
Oh, peace, you know, spirituality, connection, helpers. It's like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes you have to be not nice, or sometimes you have to argue or yell, or sometimes you, because if not, it will come back to bite you. And that's a little bit what this book is about, the dark side of the light chasers. Reclaiming your power, creativity, brilliance, and dreams by accepting all of it. And there's another great book, I think I mentioned it before. It's called The Gift of Imperfection. I can't remember the name, Brown, something Brown. That's a great book I recommend. But then there's that, fear of failure, or I gotta try to do well, or successful.